Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Magnetically Aligned Woman event. Walk into your power through self love, self worth, and authenticity. Today, I have a very special guest. Her name is Nathalie Sommer, and she is a certified relationship and intimacy coach and transformation coach. She specializes in relationships, masculine and feminine polarity, and sensual embodiment. Nathalie has been a life coach and an intuitive guide and healer for the last 16 years. She's now combined these modalities to create powerful transformations by weaving them together with her feminine, sensual embodiment for individuals and couples in their transformation work. I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome, Nathalie.
Hi, Nikki. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you today as well.
Oh, I am as well. And before we even jump into the interview, I'd love to just hear a little bit more about your personal journey and how you got started in relationship coaching and the feminine energy.
Yeah. So I've been um, I've been doing personal growth journey or work for quite a while, and um, about 5 years ago, I just noticed a pattern that a lot of clients would come to me and they would ask me about love, or when will I meet the one, or they would want to work through their love blockages, or they were having an affair, or their partner was having an affair, or intimacy no longer used to be the way how it was, or they just didn't feel that sexuality was something that they were really interested in. And, supporting those people at the time, I felt like I could be of support, but not really to the depth I would have liked. So I did a little bit of more studies myself, and then I came across the certification that really spoke to me and became a certified relationship and intimacy coach. And of course, as you study and learn, you also apply it to yourself and to your own life. So I applied it to my personal life, to my relationship, and things just made so much sense. And having had the tools that I learned and applying them into my personal life and into my relationship have created some really powerful shifts. So yeah, it's I feel like it's really needed. And generally we don't really talk about relationships or intimacy or sensuality. And it's something that we have to go out and learn, and it's not really that available. And just talking about it to others, often we find a lot of shame in ourselves just to open up vulnerably. I'm going through a hard time in my relationship, or I've never had an orgasm, or our intimacy is no longer the way how it used to be. So it's something that we often feel quite lonely in, and I've made it my mission to support people in this so they don't feel lonely, so they don't feel alone, so they have the tools and practices to lean into, to support them to experience what it is that they desire in life and in relationships.
I absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing. And it is true. Most of the time, we're not taught these things in school. We're not. And so the only way is to kind of like experiment. And the thing is, like, you experiment with another human being. So certain attributes, behaviors, you're around people who haven't been raised the same way you have. And so finding that connection, finding those ways of communication and understanding these behaviors can be quite challenging because you've never been exposed to them before. Can you
Mm.
share a little bit more about the dynamics of like what you teach? Because you do specialize in masculine and feminine. If you can um, give a brief description of what that may be for somebody
Mm.
who's never even
Yeah.
thought about this before.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's masculine and feminine energies or archetypes, and you could also call them yin and yang, shadow light, conscious and yeah, just sorry, no, just so I was going off already like into the next. So basically it's like yin and yang, or consciousness and feeling. So we all embody these different archetypes of the masculine and feminine. I'm just going to be using the term masculine and feminine versus yin and yang. So we all have these archetypes inside of ourselves. and we tend to lean into them in different times of our lives. And if we look at masculine, feminine, it's not gender related. Often we think of masculine, it's the men, and feminine is the women. And yeah, we might lean more into one of those archetypes depending on our essence, but still you'll find that throughout the day you will lean into them in different parts as you need them. And we also tend to create polarity in our relationship as well in masculine feminine dynamics. And often you'll find that maybe the man would want to be more in the masculine, and the feminine deep down might just seek to be more in her feminine, but still we will create different flows between the two. And often you find that there's a stuckness in the relationship if you're not able to feel you really move or embody the essence that's true to you. So we then create relationship dynamics that are not really flowing. So if you think of the masculine is basically consciousness. The masculine is the doing, very clear, very focused. You often will find that maybe you'll use the masculine as you're at work or if you're parenting, because you have to be really conscious and aware of what's happening in the family dynamics, in the relationship between you and your child. So you would be in your masculine because it's your consciousness, you're really aware. And the masculine is also the doing. So the feminine is pretty much the opposite, is the felt sense, being really connected to your emotions, feeling your emotions. That could be all different ranges of emotions, but also yeah, the healthy feminine will be about being connected to your heart, to love, and having pleasure in life, having joy, being in your creativity. But it's just being really connected to your emotions, to your heart, and to your felt sense. So that's the two. And the thing is, and where I jumped in a little bit too quick before, is we have healthy masculine and healthy feminine, or conscious masculine and conscious feminine, then unconscious masculine and unconscious feminine, or unhealthy masculine and feminine. So just to give you a very brief idea, so we can have masculine, but the unconscious will be constantly doing, being avoidant, feeling really, really a lot of pressure just to perform and to constantly do, experiencing burnout. Whereas the conscious masculine will be very grounded, very centered, very aware of what's going on, very clear where they need to go. And the unhealthy or the unconscious feminine is basically very hurt, needy, insecure, just emotional overload, not able to just be really clear on what she's feeling or expressing. So yeah, basically very insecure, needy, and a bit wishy-washy and just all over the place. The healthy feminine is in her heart, very loving, nurturing, in her pleasure, in her creativity. She's very in tune with her emotions and just acts from that in the moment, in real, in also in self-awareness. So in a real heart emotion. And that's just to give you a brief understanding of the two masculine and feminine dynamics.
Thank you for sharing that. I always think of masculine, like I did equate masculine energy more with the male just because it is more about about the doing, about being conscious, about the physical. And then the female is like more feeling, more emotions, more
Mm,
flow and play and these things. But like you said, it can be embodied in both, and it is not
mm,
um, tied to the actual male and female terms,
mm,
but we do see these more often. Like, for example, somebody said, she said, you know, I sense a lot of masculine energy from you. When I first saw you, I thought you were a man. And I was like, what? But I get that a lot because I am the type of person, and I find that most achievers or like women who are high achievers tend to do a lot of work. And we find ourselves in that imbalance of, you know, like I have to maintain a career as well as maybe manage the household. So it is a lot of doing. And then
mm,
we kind of forget how to get in touch with being in our body, being
mm,
able to feel, being able to play. Can you
Mm,
share more information about
mm, yeah.
how finding, like maybe finding balance, like maybe identifying how are we like out of balance with that?
Mm,
Sometimes we don't even recognize that we're out of
mm.
balance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important to with this dynamics as well. It's completely okay if we are more in our masculine. That's completely fine. Even if you identify as female and you're more in your masculine, it's completely fine. That's absolutely, there's nothing wrong. Or even if you're a male and you're more in touch with your feminine, that's completely fine as well. But if there's a part of you that's feeling there is a lack of, or you're not having your needs met, or there's just some sort of emotional charge there, then maybe it's time to lean more into the other side. Because I see a lot in women, yeah, I mean, we have times have changed. We have now got to do a lot more than we ever have had before. So we are so capable of doing a lot more, and it's absolutely wonderful. But if you're feeling at times I'm just so exhausted and I'm just so tired of holding it all together, and you actually have a deep learning of having somebody else lead and take over. It's just maybe a deep yearning. You
Mm.
may not be ready just to do that, but it's like, it'd be just so nice if, let's say, my husband or boyfriend or friend or a complete stranger would just take it all away from me and just say, hey, let me take your hand, let me lead you. It's okay. You just surrender. I've got this. Let me sort it out. So if there's a yearning for that, then maybe we need to move more into our feminine and just learn to surrender and learn to just let go and be more in our pleasure and do the things that are more nourishing for ourselves. And the same goes for men as well. I see a lot of the times that men are really tired of um, having to hold it all together. There's a lot of pressure on them because I just feel I have to take care of the family, maybe at work, I have a team or other things that are happening. And just sometimes they're just so tired, but they feel they have to be in their unhealthy masculine. They find it really hard to move into their heartfelt feminine because it doesn't feel safe. So, giving them tools and support to go like, it's okay, like you don't have to have it all together. It's also okay for you to be in your feminine sometimes and just maybe express, hey, I'm struggling with this or I need some support. So it's just learning to create balance in where we need it. And first of all, understanding ourselves and then learn to trust. I think it's learning to trust in ourselves that we can relax or ease or maybe take more leadership. It could also be the other way around where, you know, some people are more in their feminine and they're just so hard, they just find it so hard to have firm boundaries. The masculine is all about boundaries. So they find it really hard to have firm boundaries or to speak up or to have a goal and go, no, I'm going to go for that goal because it feels really good and aligned. So, yeah, we just need to learn to lean into those parts of us that maybe we haven't strengthened for, but maybe there's a yearning for more. So we just need to learn to expand into it.
Thank you for sharing. Everything that you shared, I kind of relate to my own personal experience because I love giving examples. Actually, I would love if you could give an example within like your own relationship too,
Mm.
how you've been able to apply that.
Yeah. And what a gift it's been to learn actually about masculine feminine embodiment because when we first met, my husband, he was embodying the healthy masculine. Like it was so refreshing because before I was always in my masculine
Mhm.
and the men I would attract and I would often also emasculate them, which wasn't didn't feel good to them or to myself. But he came in and he just made me feel safe and I trusted him just naturally. I'm like, all right, you take leadership. And it felt really good. And then as time went on, I fell back into my independent role or into my masculine role where I'm like, all right, so let me organize everything, let me caretake and let me do all these different things. And actually, I don't really need support. And God forbid I let him do something. And of course, he would fuck up. Poor guy, I didn't really give him a chance to even get it right. So I was just so holding on to control. And it made me feel burnt out because I felt like, and I was, reacting to it. I felt like I'm constantly caretaking and I'm just so tired. I'm feeling burnt out. I'm doing it all. But I didn't really give the poor guy a chance to step up. And he felt not enough because he felt constantly like he was failing me. And part of him was also in his family like, oh, well, that feels quite nice because Nat's got it. She's leading. I can just lean back. That feels nice. But also part of him felt, well, I'm not really good enough to, that she trusts me. And it really created, it created a separation where we both didn't feel good. We still loved each other, but there were arguments based on that we didn't feel there was healthy polarity. And when I became aware of this and I rewired my roles of the caretaker and the independent and moved more into my feminine, it's like it really was like taking a magic pill. And he had no idea I was working on myself in that because I had to be self-responsible and actually move out of the masculine and move into the feminine. So now he's cooking, he's doing the groceries. I mean, that's but he wants to and he feels amazing. I'm like, oh my God, this is just so nice. And even the way how I speak to them, like I create invitations for him to support me. And if he can't, that's okay. But I create versus than me projecting from a pain point or telling him what to do, I create invitations for him to step into his healthy masculinity where he feels he can lead or he can serve or he can support. And it really has changed our relationship dynamics. We still fall back into old patterns, of course, but
Yeah.
it has really created a huge shift. And I feel so good being in my feminine. And funnily enough, a week ago, he hurt himself. He hurt his knee.
Oh
And
no.
poor guy, yeah, luckily it's nothing major, but it meant for a few days I had to go back into the wall of doing everything. And straight away, I could feel the resentment building up. And I've realized how actually it just doesn't feel good. I mean, realizing it was really important for me to see, okay, I don't want to be in that masculine or unhealthy masculine role. And now I could move with awareness into the healthy masculine because now I know for a little bit longer, I have to do more, but I can do it consciously and I can hold the masculine container where it feels good. Whereas before I was operating from an unhealthy masculine container. So it was really interesting to notice the change.
Oh, I love that. I find similarities in that because I used to be very much like that, like controlling wise in terms of like wanting to do everything because I did have a lot of masculine energy, but then afterwards feeling exhausted because first of all, it's like not being able to trust that your partner has it taken care of. Like he's going to do it, it's okay, giving him some responsibility. Instead, it's like, oh no, I have to do this like right now. I have to do everything. I have to cook. I have to, and then just asking for support and having that kind of communication
Yeah.
is a big relief. And so for
Yeah.
audience members out there who are finding like similar patterns, would you suggest like maybe having a conscious conversation, sitting down and saying, I would love to be supported in another
Mm,
way? What if they
mm,
can't identify like um,
mm,
what exactly it is like that they need support with? Like, how
mm,
do we go about that?
yeah. Well, I think a key thing is to create invitations. And yeah, it does take a self-awareness, but just think of it. That's the thing as well of the feminine. We need to be aware when it's painful in that moment. Because often what we do is we don't say it and then we walk away. Then we think about it and then we come back and maybe we slam doors or we get frustrated and the reaction comes. There's usually like a charge there. Or we retreat and just, you know, take distance and they go like, I don't know what's going on. So even if you're not really knowing exactly what it is that you need in that moment, but if you're feeling there is an emotion there or it doesn't feel good, just say, ow, I'm in a lot of pain right now. Oh, I'm feeling really frustrated right now. Like just in that moment. And it's a practice. This is a practice. It's something that we have to learn because often we don't speak of it. But that's also the healthy feminine. She's in her body in that moment, in her emotions. She might just say, wow, that felt really painful. And then we go like, oh, you don't have to go like, da, 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 all these different things, because often a lot of words, the masculine will just overload their nervous system and they don't know what to do. Like, oh, but if you just go like, ow, that was really painful. Like, I'm really angry. And they'll be like, okay. And then they probably will ask, what are you angry about?
Mm.
And you might then go, oh, when you get asked a question, generally something will come up. I'm angry about you never doing the dishes, for example. Okay, all right. And then, okay. And then it's important we create an invitation. If we actually, oh, yeah, I'm angry about the dishes because it makes me feel not supported. Okay, makes you feel not supported. It would actually be really helpful to me if you could just do the dishes when you're done eating your lunch or whatever, or your breakfast, and that will help me feel taken care of in creating an invitation. Are you okay to do so?
Oh, I
And that,
love that.
and they'll be like, oh, I feel her. Oh, I can feel her anger. I can feel her pain point. And now she's inviting me to support her.
Mm-hmm.
And that really makes a big shift, because a lot of the times we just throw a lot of words and we're in our anger and they're like, oh, what do I do with all of this? But if they get to feel it, oh, like a genuine, yeah, oh, I can see this is real. I need to listen. That's when the awareness of the masculine needs to come in and they can feel it.
Thank you for sharing that. It reminds me of something that I always say, like expressing. I'm not sure if you heard of like the nonverbal or nonviolent communication methods. And it's just first starting out with, I feel blank because of blank.
Mm-hmm.
And that way it's not inflicting blame on your partner, and
Mm-hmm.
it opens up the space to kind of have these
Mm-hmm.
conversations. So, for example, with the dishes, it's like, you never do the dishes. That sounds like an accusation. And so
Mm-hmm.
put up their walls, and it's like, well, I've done the dishes here and here and here, but you don't take notice. And then it becomes
Mm-hmm.
blaming. So instead, it's like, I feel, like you said, I feel
Mm-hmm.
unsupported because
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing the dishes a lot lately. And so that
Yeah.
opens the space to have that conversation. Um,
Yeah.
and I wanted to touch on sensual embodiment. Like, that is so, I've never heard the word being expressed like that. Can you share a little bit about what sensual embodiment is?
Yeah. So just to finish off from what I just explained, that what you just said as well, exactly, using the, the expression of what's there and creating an invitation, just letting know what's there. That also ties into sensual embodiment, which often I think, where relationships are not able to experience what they really need or desire because that embodiment piece is missing. So you just, to the masculine, they are consciousness. So the more you're embodying, oh, the more they feel, the more they have to listen. So embodiment is you're just not using a whole heap of words. You're also just giving it as an expression. Like you can hunch your shoulders or stomp your foot or just express how you're feeling, like in your body.
Mm.
And there is something that we can see that, and our subconscious mind recognizes that, and just like, oh, it's not just again a bunch of words, like they can really feel it. Like that's where the embodiment piece comes in, and it just makes it just really makes a huge difference. And I'm not saying put in an act, but if you're aware of how you're feeling and you're just expressing your body and then you use words, it just comes across to the other person a lot more real, and it's really hard for them not to feel it or to see it and to not observe it, or especially to the masculine. Not just speaking about men, just generally the masculine as well. So Yeah, I just wanted to say, so hence then now moving into sensual embodiment. Um, it's, I mean, to me, the sensual embodiment is such a important thing. It's for me, it's a practice, but also what it does is, again, rather than just using words, so I can just see I still got paint. I was painting before. I missed that part here. Sorry. um, anyway, so yeah, it's basically what you do is, well, you get out of your mind and into the body. And as it is for a lot of women as well, that we are so stuck in our mind that we're just overthinking or overdoing, and whether it's intimately or sensually or even just in everyday life. So as soon as we come into our body in our felt sense, everything just starts to flow and we're able to process things so much easier. They just start to move through us. So sensual embodiment is really important, and even for a relationship as well. You can maybe say, hey, baby, do you want to make love? But
Mm.
if you bring an embodiment, like if you just move your body in the feminine, maybe you just move your hips a bit, and you just move your shoulders a bit, or maybe you just rub up towards their body, and you just do that. To the masculine, that is, it also gets them to come into the body. So embodiment, even just to initiate sensually, is really important. Or even if you're love making as well, like being in your feminine sensual embodiment. Again, often we just think, a lot of women think we have to do something, or we have to perform, or we have to do something to give pleasure to our partner. But really, what we can just do is be in our body sensually embodied, and we can just go into, actually, how does this feel to me? And what if I move a certain way? And how does that give me pleasure? And we just might just want to move very slow and just really connect with our body. If I even maybe touch myself, or if I move, shift my hips a bit, how will that give me pleasure? And that's also sensual embodiment. You're getting out of your head of thinking of doing into, let me see what's feeling and going on in my body. And even if we bring that into the lovemaking, and we're going to get juicier here. Um, so let's say you want it to be slower or faster. You can just move a bit faster, a bit slower. And if it feels, or if they're just, they're too fast, you can
Mhm.
also be in your body just like, or like, you just let them know, like, you just show in your body, and maybe you make a sound to it, rather, because sometimes for the feminists, it's like, excuse me, more to the left or more to the right, or give them instructions. You just go into your body and you just express it, and that to the masses are like, oh, what's going on? So they might then go like, oh, actually, oh, slower, yeah, or ow, or if it feels uncomfortable, we just show them in our body, and we make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, but then also we can express it in our body as well. And it just allows for the whole lovemaking to feel a lot more sensual and more in our felt senses versus in our mind of thinking of having to do or having to be in our masculine to perform.
Wow. I'm like super zoned in this part because like I find that a lot of women we do have we're not taught these things. So oftentimes, especially in my culture, it's very much like pleasing the man. And so it is very much like just the doing, the being in your head. And so shifting into the body, like how can we start shifting into the body?
Mm, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, when I work with my clients, and even including myself, I use this as a practice. I use sensual embodiment practices, because it's something that we have to learn to feel, because it's really the feminine is surrender. And feeling sensually embodied is actually a surrender into our own self, into our own body. So the practice that I tend to give and do myself is, to learn to feel it, is maybe I play some music and I move to the music, and even just touch, like what type of touch feels good on my body. So I give myself the touch that I desire, and actually discover where my body feels, does it feel good? And it's not, this might sound a bit weird, but again, if you get out of your head and into your body, you'll have an amazing experience. Maybe just hearing it from, like, that's a bit weird. Why would I do that? But that's, again, that's your mind. You have to get out of your mind into the body. So yeah, play a song, move. And if you're finding it a bit harder in the beginning, just allow your body just to move, maybe just to the music, and just move your hips, and
Mm.
even maybe contract your pelvic floor, or your vulva, and just play it, just contract, and you just move, and that will already maybe create some flow or arousal. And then maybe you want to bring in some sensual touch, and just move, and just go into whatever feels good in that moment, and what it is that you would yearn more of, and to learn to feel that. And maybe you want to bring, maybe that's enough, maybe that's just all you need, maybe then you want to go a bit deeper and explore different pleasure points in all of your body. But that's already like learning to move, and even using breath and just touch. And I feel like a lot of women, that can be really challenging, and often is the most challenging thing. Maybe just even just express some sound, like, oh, but that feels really good. And that is can be a bit more advanced, but we need to learn to feel what's happening in our body, and as we express it, I mean, move to it, it just creates a deeper sense of letting go and self-trust. Then when we are partnering up, it doesn't matter whether you're single or in a relationship, but then when we do partner up with somebody else, we are coming more from a place of being and sensually embodied, and more in our pleasure, versus from a place of doing. Doesn't mean you're not going to do things. You're not just going to be there lying like a starfish and moving hips, but but you will feel a lot more in connection of your body, and a lot more in your pleasure. And for a long time, I thought I was a great lover. I wasn't really. I thought I was. Maybe I was, but it definitely didn't feel like I was a great lover to myself, um, because I was just so much into doing. And if you're thinking about sex or sensuality, it's really more of a place that you go to. And when you can go to that place that's usually inside of yourself, that's really when it becomes amazing, because all of a sudden your whole being is open, and you're so embodied, you're so in that moment, like magic really happens in that moment. And
Mhm.
only we can really take ourselves to that place.
So it very much is like a self exploration, like knowing what you like,
Yeah,
and breaking free from like the rigidity of life, and just like
yeah,
allowing yourself to maybe sway to music, or be more in flow, like letting go,
yeah,
surrendering, letting go of that control.
yeah,
I always say, like, if you're scared, just like do something really crazy and then don't think about it. Like, just do something. For example, like I would just jump on the bed and be like, okay, like, like you have to do something just
yeah,
absurd to get out of your head first, and then you realize, like, oh, it's okay. um,
yeah,
but then there's also that very soft approach too.
yeah,
It start as simple as like touching your arm and noticing if that feels nice, or uh,
yeah,
oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing.
yeah. You're welcome. And I think, the getting out of the head is really, really an issue for most people. And I think we need to understand also our shadows, or what the things that make us short circuit. So some people might maybe need the environment to be nice. So maybe the right lighting, or maybe have a shower beforehand, or maybe have a massage. So they might need that kind of setup. Others might maybe need a bit more space and an emotional connection. So they might just need that kind of support. So just really understanding as well, actually, what 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 is my shadow, and what is it that I need. And because as soon as we, like, it's, let's say somebody comes in for particular too quick, too fast, they might short circuit. So it's important to understand that, so we can say, okay, I like it really slow. Maybe we look into each other's eyes for a moment, or we have some dinner first, and then we get intimate, or we might maybe have a massage first. So that won't make me short circuit, because to somebody else, it might just be direct genital touch. They'll be like, oh yeah, let's go. You know, that could be the pathway to arousal, but to somebody else, it could be their short circuit. So it's important to understand what will help me to get out of my mind and into my body, so then we can create a blueprint around it that works for us.
Oh. the space of safety is very important. Like
Mm,
that's what I'm getting from what you're saying, the safety, because
mm,
oftentimes we do feel maybe intimidated by the
yeah.
act of like just jumping into the act, and you have to kind of create that cushion and allow yourself to ease into the moment so that you
Mm,
give yourself enough, like you're relaxed enough to actually enjoy what is happening instead of thinking I have to get it done like in the next whatever 10, 15 minutes.
yeah.
um, Interesting, thank you.
Yeah.
And since we are wrapping up, can you give us the top three like tips or advice that we can use to um, just become more embodied?
Mm, yeah. I think the first will be is to be aware of our masculine, feminine dynamics in ourselves, like which is which part am I currently operating from, and which one would I like to move into more, or that I want to expand into to create more wholeness in myself. So understanding what that looks like or what is needed. Um, I think with everything is um, if we want to, that's the thing, we can learn new things, but it's a different thing about feeling something. So we might go like, oh yeah, I want to be able to trust my partner more. And, I'm going to do everything that I can to trust them more, but it might be really different to really feel it. So um, it, you know, creating a practice around it, a practice maybe of embodiment, learning to feel, and that usually starts with self. That could just be maybe a visualization or meditation of giving yourself the support that is needed to trust somebody else, and then practicing that for a certain period of time so the nervous system can rewire itself and we can learn to feel it more. So I'm a big believer about using things that we want to experience to learn to practice it, and taking time with that to practice it frequently. The third piece is really, I feel like we all need to be more in our feminine. We need to be more in our pleasure, in our joy, in our happiness, and be just making more time for ourselves in doing the things that we desire versus in the constant doing and pushing ourselves to do more. I feel like we all need a bit more of the healthy feminine in our life to just be and to enjoy, and being more self-loving and accepting of ourselves. So that would be my three tips.
Thank you for sharing that. And I love that you came with paint on your arm because it goes to show like perfect example. You spend time today, like you have work, but then you also spend some of that me time to paint, and you said you had yoga after this. So
Yeah.
you yeah, I have to I'm gonna go out and do something today too.
Oh, lovely. It's sunny where you are. Is it
It
warm?
it is. It is.
Yeah.
It, I'm in Florida, so like it never gets cold. Maybe like once in a blue moon, but as a as a high achieving person, I've always been brought up to do, like work was always priority, achievements was always priority. So now definitely stepping down from that, and practicing what feminine energy is, which is integrating more play, more like it's okay, you don't have to work all the time. Things are still going to get done.
Yeah.
Allowing myself to experience these things has been huge. So thank you for sharing that with us, Nathalie. And I know you have a little special something for everyone who is watching today. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, so you can access my quiz. I've got a quiz that you can take that will help you discover your Eros archetype and help you to learn more about your pathway to sensual embodiment. And I've also got a free video training there for you as well on masculine feminine polarity and embodiment in that as well.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. And for everybody who is watching with us today, as you know, I will attach the link below the video so you have easy access. And if they would like to visit your website, can you just share your website with us right now?
Yeah, so my website is my full name, nataliesummer.com.
Amazing. Wow, I'm so excited. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Nikki. It was really a lovely chat, and Yeah, really grateful to have been here today with you.
It has been a pleasure. And for everybody else, I am so excited to see you guys on the next episode. Bye for now.